Hello, everybody. Episode 8. Welcome back. Thank you so much. Thank you for the emails and comments and friendships and appreciate just the opportunity to be in communication with everyone and I mean honestly, especially to those that are that are kind of doing similar work to me that are getting that are making adjustments, that are getting help from this. I'm glad that, I think that's kind of why I got called in here. And I think, I mean, there's other aspects to it, but I appreciate those of you that are applying some of these concepts to your dreaming and to your silence. They were things that were presented to me, and I took me a while to make the adjustments, but they proved to be very effective. These what seem subtle and slight adjustments end up moving the trajectory of your life. Even though it seems like a slight pivot, it's a significant one that leads into a totally different experience for your future self. And so your future self is doing all this for you. And if you've gravitated in this direction, then you're moving toward that consciousness in which we stop resisting. We allow the feelings to move us, the fears, and all of the longing. And we no longer hold back emotion or hold back longings and feelings and expressions. And that's what liberation is, right? And so even when I have emotion surfacing and my partner goes to help me, you know, my body wants to pull back the emotion, even though part of me wants it to come out, and part of it wants to, to uphold something that, that is uh, an illusion of what needs to be. And all of those are just slight adjustments that we're all going through. And um, that applies toward everything. Like, there are solutions available to us, real practical, simple concepts that can completely change the course of our life. Um, but our ego is in place to make sure that we are distracted from hearing that. And so that's a lot of this is just seeds being planted. You know, it took me a long time to make adjustments after hearing certain concepts. Um, I was just under the impression that things worked a certain way, and then when you realize that that impression that I was under was the same impression that most people are under, and you start to track why there's that type of impression on us, then you start to understand it's more than just the syntax of humanity. It's more than the what they taught us in first, second, and third grade. It's an overall um, plastic perception that is available to each and every person who comes through this portal of Earth. And we all have to go through it. So I literally blue pilled my kids on purpose. I let them see the world the way that I was shown, so that they would find it within their being to extract themselves from the hypnosis, rather than me, try to isolate or protect them or keep them from experiencing this experience. And but I appreciate people that are doing something different. And Toltecs for many years did, my teacher was taken from his mom at birth to be raised amongst shamans only, so that he would not ever move to the position that would, the position of perception that would domesticate him, that he would remain, his perception would be liberated and never go to this common. So they were protecting him and guiding him in very specific ways and very specific and difficult disciplines his whole childhood. And so he had to escape. He signed up for Vietnam for the war when he was 17 somehow, through the reservation, through the Indian reservation. And he was able to escape his grandfather, who the shaman, or at least he thought. So he thought, well, this is my way out of all this discipline. And so to imagine how much discipline that is, that you'd be willing to go into combat in Vietnam instead. Uh, so he just wanted a normal life. And he ended up, becoming a warlord of huge sections of Cambodia, because when he got there, He was a paratrooper, and he would paratroop into these different parts of Cambodia and spy on the villagers because he was a seer and he could do all that. But then they left him a gift, yeah, to show that they could tell he was watching them. And so he came into the village, and they honored him, for his medicine and his power, and they saw what he was capable of. And then they made entire deals with the U.S. Army because of this arrangement that occurred. These entire villages sided with the U.S. Army in these particular conflicts. But my point being is that actually, I have no idea why I'm talking about this. So thank you for being here. But it's all it. I'm sure it all pertains, right? So um, yeah, the there are ways. That's right. So there are ways to essentially protect a child, and Toltecs did do this for generations, where a child was trained, separate from society and protected in a way so that the overall hypnosis doesn't take hold. But it isn't like that. It isn't something that they did by isolating them in a hermit sense. They isolated them in a that they didn't let anybody that was unconscious around them, so that the description of the world of that unconsciousness didn't program them. It didn't spread like a virus, right? Even though the way viruses work and stuff are not the way we are told. It's just an analogy or a way of talking. um and so that I don't skip that part, there is no such thing. Germ theory was disproven, terrain theory has been proven. Okay, just take care of your being energetically and physically. And disease is energy. Disease is energetic, right? I know it's cancer is acidosis, but prior to that, it's energetic. So a person can have an acidic body and still not get cancer, right? Because it's an energetic transformation. So there's some real subtleties to this, learning this stuff that's in our medical literature, and deciphering how it works for shamans and comparing, so that we're clear on that. But you can protect a child from, becoming hypnotized. It's very difficult. And then you can raise that child in awareness, and then that child can go on to have children, and that those children can be raised in awareness. And for generations, that did happen, and those lineages do exist. So we are not the only ones talking about these things. Um, there are also very many systems of shamanic training and teachings, and people that have had huge breakthroughs and are doing dope work and all this stuff. But a lot of them have major misinterpretations and are still caught in all these dogmatic ways of perceiving things. Uh, to truly perceive energy as it flows in the universe is not something you can do based on dogma. You have to unbind yourself from the perception that would even support thought. You have to move beyond thought, what they call into the somersault of thought of the unknown, right? Where your imagination is fully returned to you as a fully functional warrior who has seen and done battle with his ego or her, and it is a battle, you guys. The battle is within, it's in the heart, it's in the chest, right? So you want to know people that have heart. You want to be around people that have heart. If they say, "Oh, you should," who are the 5 people in your life, and how wealthy are they, and like, I don't care how wealthy the people in your life are. It's how do the people in your life have heart, right? I find some of the most incredible heart-based people that live on the street. By the way, did not suffer from a pandemic, who did not get medical treatment, who did not get sick whatsoever. In fact, just it's absolutely insane, um, that people can't simply see what's right in front of them. And so we're going to learn a lot about immunity now. The truth is spilling out about the lies about the PCR test, which, I mean, a lot of us have been saying since day one, and because it was an obvious deal. But we're heading now into, climate change wars and cyber attacks and economies crashing and banks shutting down, and they're preparing us for the Great Reset. And so we're gonna have to go inward in ways we didn't know about before, and so we might as well start that now. It's going to be a lot more comfortable or a lot more enjoyable to have had your breakthroughs prior to when it's forced upon you. And by forced upon you, it's like it's survival at certain points. We're if we overreact during these transitions and or underreact, it's like Don Juan in the Castaneda books often referred to the fact that man's greatest fallacy is that he doesn't, even though he knows the rope is around his neck, he doesn't react in time. It's the part of us doesn't want to believe what's happening. And that comes from the flyer's mind, the plastic mind that is telling us it, that is a voice that we listen to still, that I listen to still, that I know one person that shook the flyer for a whole few hours, right, and they couldn't walk. So it's not like we are able to be without this interference. This interference is part of the deal. Somehow we will gain the ground as evolutionary creatures we need through this training, through this predatorial experience. Um, this is a food chain thing, and it has nothing to do with like physical food, to do with energy. And that's what people don't understand about like they think the cannibalism and the stuff that goes on is the real dark part, and it is. I mean, obviously, that people that do satanic ritual, that eat those things, that take adrenochrome, those are real. That's all real stuff, and it's managed to find its way into the elite, as a means of blackmail, as also as a means of just verification that you're willing to cross the line, just like any gang, really. If you think about it, like Immortal Technique talks about having to rape somebody to prove you're hard. I mean, it just goes further and further and further and further when you deal with the hardcore trillionaire gangsters. Uh, so we're dealing with real things, but the real dark part isn't the flesh eating and the physicality. It's you know it's very difficult to perceive the force that has a hold of us, and it will make you sick if you were to. And yet, it's not that big of a deal if you can handle it. So, I'm just preparing everybody as best I can for learning to see things. It takes a sober. You have to be sober, and by sober, it doesn't mean you can't smoke marijuana, or you can't drink alcohol, or you can't eat mushrooms, or you can't even do hard drugs. I have no judgment of how people get through their lives. I had a friend, or not a friend, but somebody's friend I know of who, they really were ready to take their life. They were done. There was too much pain, and they decided they'd go to Mexico one last time, get some cocaine and some hookers, and live it up for one last week of their life. And I guess the coke was really good, and whatever. Like, I don't know, but they did not. After that, they're like, "Wow, that was amazing. I want to do this again." And so they gave him a reason to live. And as crazy as that sounds, um, he went home and he started working harder and making more money and started having more vacations, and eventually he graduated away from the coke part and the hooker part and just started finding fun things to do that were sustainable and holistic, and he's a much healthier person because of that decision. And so I don't have no judgment how people get to their wholeness. um, there are lines that you cross that there are no coming back from unless you're willing to fully spend your life redeeming yourself and be of service in that way. And so I hope people aren't crossing those lines. I know people do, but I hope that we all come to terms with the dangers of the ego and the subtle little moments. And that's why dreamers have to be really careful, because when you do become a lucid dreamer, it's not just that you get to pretend you're having experiences. You do have experiences, and you can then use that dreaming power for gaining power in the social world to a point. There's a catch-all, or there's like a, I don't know, there's some sort of default switch that doesn't allow you to use your power unless it's for abstract purposes, um, which is critical. And that's why I know everything's going to be okay, you guys, because when everyone wakes up, then the people that are getting you to dream this dream for them won't be able to get you to dream this anymore. And you'll be able to dance to your own dance and sing your own song. But right now, you're still chanting the illusion into existence. You're still speaking it into being. You're still in your fear of it, your rejection of it, your unwillingness to look at it. It goes both ways, you guys. Everyone's like, oh, don't look at it. It's like, no, got to integrate it, but don't react. And I don't mean don't overact. I mean, don't react. Be indifferent and detached and observe it. Go past the point. Call up these events. Call up people. Get into a dark room. Call up their name in silence and look directly at them and tell me what you see. And first you'll see the projection that everybody has put on that person. You have to look past that. You have to be able to be silent to do that. Then you can make your own assessments about the world instead of let the media lie to you, or let the truthers lie to you, or the fact checkers fact check you. I can't believe the world we live in now. I can't believe people are going along with everything. Um, but I sensed it as a kid. I knew this was all coming. I know there's other kids out there that know and can see what's going on. I feel for the kids more than anything. I hope they gravitate toward sober people. Again, sober is not about not doing drugs. Sober is about being sober, having a sober perspective. You know, the Sangamos drink alcohol and marijuana for days in a trance stance. And they keep drinking and keep smoking and they don't stop. And you have to keep going. You can't stop. It's part of the rite of passage. And you move beyond the alcohol and the marijuana at some point, unless you can't hang and then you puke. So, and you're out for days. Like, you got to get past the point, right? And so I'm not saying people should do that kind of thing, but don't judge how people learn how to expand their perception. It doesn't matter. It's what they're going to do with their expansive perception. Are they going to heal? Are they going to come to terms with the toxicity that got them there, and how to then you know get it out of their body and move into a holistic, sustainable direction. So, um, there's no bubbles to live in. Kids are going to have a really challenging time. The majority of people here are going to continue to consume poison and toxicity and be lied to a degree, right? There's still going to be some core lies that maintain the base illusion so that this dream spell doesn't fully live. But we're in that transitional time where a lot of the manipulation and the particular ways in which lies were working upon the masses will be exposed, and people are going to have to look at things they didn't want to look at. And so that's powerful, and that's where we're gonna people like us are gonna be needed to a degree, just to help people to stay calm and stuff and not overreact to this discovery that they're no longer you know operating from a place in which they are stable. Which will be good for them. It'll be a fluid opportunity for them to move beyond their standard fear-based way of interpreting their existence. And that's huge. Like, that's going to be amazing. They're going to feel opened, and it's going to feel like rebirthing and stuff, and they're going to get really religious and all this stuff will happen. But who cares? Like, however they come to spirit and to the universe is as an intelligent design. It doesn't matter if it's through religion. It's that veil is gonna continue to lift too, you guys. Um, and there's no reason to follow the Toltecs either, as we're in a new time. I'm not suggesting people follow a particular way that has already been done. I'm suggesting that you forge a new path, a new neural pathway that is sustainable for you. And I guarantee you that if you follow it truly, it will lead to dynamic teachers that will assist you and support you, as well as lead you to becoming a dynamic teacher that can assist and support others. So, and I mean, I could have stepped into a teaching role a long time ago, but it's not something to do unless you I think are really ready, and even then, it's not like I'm suggesting that I'm anything other than a peer. I'm just offering a perspective that is sober because it's been put through tests, and I've seen that it has nothing to do with, it's not based on projection, and that my teachers have been solid, and, you know, but I have so much to learn, and I appreciate your feedback, and I'm looking for um, people that have as much or more experience than I do in working in the shamanic world and or in any of the purification realms. And so I'm learning a lot from people around food purification and around, how to resolve certain poisons that we've, you know that we're encountering, and things. So there's all kinds of purification in which um, we will continue to expand and learn, new ways. So there's never sort of a stopping point, but you can do something very cryptic called stopping the world, and that will expedite everything. And so I highly recommend that you find a way to have your breakthroughs in meditation. I don't care if you go to Vipassana. I don't care if you, use psychedelics, but psychedelics, there's a way to use that to where you're permanently altered. Um, and there's tricks to that too. So fasting and then using medicines at the right time. And you don't want to just make up your own concoctions necessarily, or your own methodologies. It really needs to be guided. Um, at the same time, don't rush it. Like if you're good, it's just getting that stagnant energy moving. And some people they get pretty, um, when they start to realize how much stagnant energy they have, they get really excited and they want to get rid of it, and they want it now, and they need a healing now. And it's a little intense, and that's just part of being new to this. You get really um, excitable, right? And there's a maturing process that happens, so that you start to set the pace, and you have um, a way to move forward that is uh, not gonna be too quick and too dangerous for you. So there's a lot to think about when it comes to how we're going to proceed. Individually, we want to be self-honest with ourselves. But yeah, getting back to, like, you know the children that were protected, and then them raising children and all of that. It's like we're gonna be doing that now. Like we're dealing similar to what the Toltecs dealt with. They discovered how out of balance things were, and then had to make adjustments. That the wheel of time showed up and showed them their role, so that they could set a course for future generations that would take the lead. And so we'll be called to move into that. Uh, Not in the same way the Toltecs did it. We're not going to be afforded that 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 time. Um, but at the same time, we're going to go inward in ways based on a new gnosis that's coming in, and we're going to be keeping up with a new form of intelligence that's moving forward, which is AI. And so, because of the AI push, and because forces rise to meet each other, which is the A. So, when forces rise to meet each other, this bridge, the A, right down below, there's a certain point where that bridge is critical to the stability of this structure. And so there's a lot there, and this is all a story. It's an incredible story. But as AI evolves, shamans will evolve. Shamans have already been able to do what AI can do, but it's just they've been trying to mimic what shamans do through a computer, through a processor, through a magical instrument, right? Which is shamanic. So it's not like you can't take away the shamanic part. The magic is just here. But the way the creator force is teaching us through this simulation, essentially, is through this paradox that's coming at us. And so much more than what just Toltecs were up to in the past is going to become available to so many. Um, and so yeah, the most incredible types of dreaming connections will start to happen for people. People are going to have a lot more um, out of body experiences, a lot more interaction with the non physical world, like friends that have died, and being able to communicate with, having full conversations with what you would consider non living things, even though they really are, like plants and trees, right? And grass and the earth. These are living creatures. The stones have memories. Everything has its capacity. And shamanism can verify that based on whether it has a luminous cocoon around it and an assemblage point. Plants, their assemblage point is in a different place than ours, so it's really difficult to communicate. Just like when a person's assemblage point is really far away from where yours is, and they're schizophrenic, it's very difficult to speak with a schizophrenic person and get through a conversation. It's so fun though. It's so worth doing, and I highly recommend it um, as often as possible. So, just the shamanic stuff's just gonna pour in, like it's without question. Um, it has to. It's the balancing factor. Um, so yeah, I mean, I get people say that we have to call out anybody who's out of balance, and that we have to, like, we're at war, and I don't know anything about that. I'm not in an outer war. I'm in an inner war. I'm a warrior that is facing myself and struggling to do that. Um, I struggle with distraction, and I'm very focused, right? So I know you guys are struggling with distraction. It's not something I talk to people that claim that they're beyond all this. Um, but I asked them a couple questions, and it exposes the fact that they're totally attached to outcome and attached to storylines, and they're not unbiased at all. So they're not past anything. They haven't even begun. And it's okay, you know. It's no big deal. I'm not calling them out. I'm just they're calling me out. So I'm like, well, what do you want me to do here? Like, we're all insane, you guys, me included. You have to know that. Like, you got to come to terms with the fact that sanity is insane and insanity is sane. And so you got to be willing to go insane and walk through to the other side in order to perceive this world for what it is. And that's what shamans do. They prepare themselves. They know for a period of time their assemblage point will be erratic, their perception will not be controllable, and they will be in a state of what seems to be chaos. It's not. God is guiding that assemblage point position to its new home. I promise. Your assemblage point will always go where it needs to go if you stop fighting what it wants to do. So that's it. I mean, the mind will keep you from doing that. It will talk to you when you need it to not talk to you. And so um, there's no sense in pursuing really much else until you have a balanced mind to where you can function as a straight A student on a college level without being indoctrinated, but also be able to hang out, you know, with the schizophrenics and perceive what they're talking about and not judge them. Um, I work with teachers that have taught me so much that I don't even know what I would have done without them. But at the same time, some of those teachers wouldn't be able to last a whole night in the wilderness with me and the homies that can really navigate perception with our physicality as well, like where we're liberated in our movement and our travel, and we're exploring um, the limitations. It, it's 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 just the situation I'm in. I don't know many people that can do this, um, but I do know many people that are willing and want to learn, and it starts slow. Um, it requires purification. Everyone seems to think you can skip that part. You can't. You have to either recapitulate or fast or do something, that's going to bring, this that's going to move the stagnant energy. That magical passes that are available online on YouTube and stuff. You can do these to move energy. You can do qigong or tai chi or all kinds of trainings that will move energy. Learning a martial art so that you can ground yourself. These are all things that are just they're gonna be almost necessary. I don't know. You could probably come up with other things. Like, I think really incredible dancers don't need any of that if you're truly liberated in your dancing. Um, and some of the yoginis have found such breakthrough in their practice that your lucidity is um, in place. But just don't force yourself to play with the big boys until you're ready, right? Get in there and do the work and know that you have time. And the world seems to be, you know, falling apart to a degree, and in some sense it is, and that's part of um, what we need to witness in order to come to terms with how incredible we are and how incredible the world is. So um, the lies that are being exposed will reveal the truths that have always been there. And that is that we're beautiful, amazing, holistic, intelligent, abstract, evolutionary creatures. There's nothing more to say. The sky is not the limit. There is no limit. This isn't even here, you guys. It doesn't matter the details. What matters is that you can tell the difference between a lie and a truth based on the vibration. And that's hard. And that means you're being self-honest, because that means you're not lying to yourself. And that's hard too. You have to go back and like undo some of the stories you've been telling yourself about who you are. Like, you know what, I wasn't that wasn't right. I shouldn't have been saying that about myself and all that. Like, it's just it's not about telling me or telling others, it's about telling yourself. Yeah. And then you're gonna fall in love with life because you've allowed yourself the self-love and the respect to admit to yourself, hey, oh shit, my shadows kept me in this little box, and I've been being condescending. I've been being, and I have been, right? I'm having to look at all the things in my being that are still out of balance and have been. And it hopes, not for you guys, I'm doing that for me, but I hopes by sharing that and being vulnerable about that you guys will be vulnerable and open and admit to the things that you haven't done, that you would like to. Um, because these are things that you have time to do. But at some point, you won't have time. You will have forgotten. You will have lost your clarity if you don't make use of it. Um, our capacity to be of service right now has never been stronger because there's so much need for it. So it doesn't have to do with the kind of service that people typically associate it with. Um, and so let's let's find that within ourselves, within our story. Where is it within my immediate circle, my closest friends, my family, my children, my parents? What can I do to be of service? And even though some of those people you may be triggered by or offended by, or their expectations of you, maybe you can rise above that and go and be the better person than in that situation. So don't expect people to meet you in the middle. Be willing to go all the way to where they are and learn how they communicate. And they will appreciate it and know that you've come all the way over to where they are. They will feel it, and they will be willing to go back to the middle now and meet you. But if you're only on the middle and you're not willing to come any further, and they're stubborn, you know, you can keep showing up in the middle, but it's probably not going to do a lot. So who cares? Just go all the way over there. What do you care? Right? Unless your ego's invested in being right, which it is, right? And so this is a perfect situation for you. You are going to heal for the both of you, but you're going to heal yourself more than anything. And by healing yourself, you're healing the whole. Anytime one person heals, um, it affects the whole. Anytime one whole person comes into existence, like a Don Juan or a or a Carlos Castaneda or a Flindra Donna Grau or a Taisha Abelar or a Carol Tiggs happens in this world, it's like an explosion. It like opens portals for eons of time. Like we are that capable. And one being becoming whole is more impact on things than tens of thousands of people, uh, praying or it's you gotta understand it's a lot to do this and there's nothing else to do. There's no reason. You're going to fucking die. So there's nothing to do but pursue knowledge. But in order to pursue knowledge, you have to become grounded enough and realistic enough and capable enough. Otherwise, you're going to get hurt. So get your shit together. However, you can figure out how to do that. Maybe it means you have to go live somewhere else and heal. I don't know. That's usually not the case. It's usually you could do it in a jail cell, so I don't know why that would apply. But if your mind is in so much pain and confusion and fear and frustration, find a way to truly deliver that catalyst of change into your life so that you're no longer, perceiving things um, as a victim. Get help if you're a victim. Get help if you're a perpetrator. Get help if you're a savior. And those three things are always connected, right? If you're we'll get into that in another time, but yeah, Toltecs are really focused on the fact that you're always people are either victorious or they're victims, and they don't know how to be one or the other. So there's a lot of people you've probably met in this world that have never really suffered any actual defeats, and that's why their ego is so fully intact. And then there's people that have never really had any actual successful experiences that they can say, hey, I did something. And therefore their ego is fully, in a state of victim. And it's very, very difficult to help people that are that way. It's even more difficult to people that have never suffered a defeat. But yeah, that's all a huge thing to learn and come to know about. So tantric sexual shadow therapists are really good for helping people to come to terms with where they're at in their victim, perpetrator, savior, and whether they're in fight, flight, or freeze with their nervous system. Um, but there's other people out there that are good at assessing these things, and um, the sooner we get interested in learning about ourselves, the more we'll become curious about God. The more we'll become curious about the creator force and how to, to spend more and more time in the presence of that. And that's where it's at, you guys. And you don't need mushrooms to do that anymore. Um, the movements that I do can arrive us at that place. The movements, there are you can practice the immortals. Those will offer you a much longer life if you do them. You can, you know, you can learn to unbind and not do through the art of gazing that will liberate your being from so much stress that you really will feel like you're reversing your aging. It may not appear that way to others, but you'll be able to start to tell that something's truly healing within your being because you're unlocking from the stress and the frequencies of the thoughts, like for serious durations of time. And then when you come back to it, it's just noise, and so you're just sort of observing it rather than ever getting caught back in it. So I hope all those breakthroughs, happen for you guys. And I know I go all over the place and it's a little bit abstract, but my message is one of just gratitude. I don't pray for anything. I say thank you. I expect to disappear any second. I'm ready to. I've created a life in which that's something I look forward to. But I know that it won't happen because of that. It's just I'm being shown and told things every step of the way. And I have much more um, sensitivity to acquire. Right? I'm not that sensitive. I'm not that. My senses aren't dialed yet. But yet there's so much more than they were. And so I know it's just going to continue to get really amazing. And I hope that's same for all of you. I'm here, you guys. Reach out. Let me know what you want to learn about, hear about, talk about. Again, eventually I'll have more, as this as we move along, I'll have some people on here and get into some discussions with others and different perspectives, and ones that challenge me and ones that I'm aligned with and learning from and stuff. Uh, yeah, that's it, guys. Hope everyone has an amazing day, and I really appreciate your time.